My name is Peter McDonald. I'm the president of the 13 surviving Navajo Code Talkers. In the early part of World War II, the enemy was breaking every military code that was being used in the Pacific. This created a huge problem for strategizing against the enemy. Eventually, a suggestion was made in early 1942 to use Navajo language as a code. The enemy never understood it. By the time the war ended, two communication networks were established. Navajo Communication Network for all top secret confidential messages. The second network, English Network, for all other messages. What we did truly represents who we are as Americans. America, we know, is composed of diverse community. We have different languages, different skills, different talents, and different religion. But when our way of life is threatened, like the freedom and liberty that we all cherish, we come together as one. And when we come together as one, we are invincible. We cannot be defeated. That's why we need this National Navajo Code Talker Museum so that our children, the future generation, can go through that museum and learn why America is so strong. Thank you very much for listening.
How the Navajo Code Talkers broke barriers. The Navajo Code Talkers used their language as a code that helped the Allies win World War II because the Axis kept breaking the Allies' code. How the Navajo code language started. Philip Johnston, a World War I veteran and a civil engineer, proposed the idea of using the Navajo language as a code. In 1942, he met with Major General Clayton B. Vogel, and Johnson created a test which placed Navajo men in combat conditions. They transmitted and decoded a 3-line message in 20 seconds, when it had taken machines 30 minutes to do the same thing. The U.S. Marines started recruiting Navajo men in 1942. They were also known as Windwalkers. 29 Navajos attended boot camp in 1942. These Navajo Code Talkers developed a code for World War II. This was not the first time a Native American language was used as a code. In World War I, the Choctaw language was used. Peter McDonald shares how the Navajo Code worked.
That only 400 of us would know and understand, and if a Navajo is captured from here or listening, would not even know what we're talking about. That's how the code was structured. Why was the code so successful? The reason it was one of the reasons it was so successful is that it was all verbal, number one. Subject to memory only. We didn't have a notebook, anything like that. And all the code names and code words were locked up.
How did it work? When a Navajo received a message, he would hear nouns and verbs that had no relationships. He would then translate that to English and take the first letter of each word, which would make a phrase. There were also separate phrases for different terms, such as Bishlo, ironfish, for submarine, and Dahi Tilhi, hummingbird, which meant fighter plane. The Code Talkers participated in every major Marine operation in the Pacific Theater, giving the Marines an advantage throughout the war. How was it not broken? Navajo was not a written language, and with its complicated grammar, listening would not help at all. The Navajo Code Talkers only had a code book during training, so on the battlefield, they had to memorize the code term. Only the 400 Navajo code talkers who had received the training knew what the 600 code terms were. The Navajo did not have many of the code terms as a word, so they used descriptive terms. At the outbreak of World War II, at least 30 non-Navajos knew the language, and none of them were Japanese. When the Marines started using the Navajo language as a code, they took it to the next level by further encoding the language by substituting the words with descriptive terms. The code used word association by assigning a Navajo word, the phrases, and military tactics. The Navajo Code Talkers were admired for the skill, speed, and accuracy they demonstrated through the war. What would have happened without them? You can infer that if there were no Navajo Code Talkers, the Allies would not have won World War II because Navajo was the only spoken language that was not broken by the Axis. Navajo endings. Navajo is the only oral or spoken code that was not broken. It was also used in the Korean and Vietnam Wars with similar success. Other indigenous languages were explored, such as Choctaw, Chippewa, Creek, and Sioux, before and after World War II, but they were not as accomplished and widely used. The code eventually retired from use and was declassified in 1968. President Ronald Reagan gave the Code Talkers a Certificate of Recognition and announced August 14th Navajo Code Talkers Day in 1982. President Bill Clinton signed a law that awarded the Congressional Gold Medal to the original 29 Code Talkers in 2000. The last of the 29 Code Talkers that created the language, Chester Nez, died in 2014 at age 93. President George W. Bush presented the medals to the last 5 surviving Code Talkers at a ceremony held in Washington in July 2001. Who is left of the Navajo Code Talkers? Only Peter McDonald, Joe Vandiverser, Samuel F. Sandoval, Thomas H. Bigay, and John Kinselser are still alive. In the early 2019, 3 Navajo Code Talkers died.
One of the Navajo Code Talkers has died. George Willie Sr. died yesterday at his home in northern Arizona. He served in the Battle of Okinawa, delivering and receiving coded messages using the Navajo language, which helped the U.S. win World War II. He also won the Silver Congressional Medal of Honor. Willie Sr. was 92 years old.